My name is Alina Vance, and I am 32 years old. For 5 years, I have been transferring $1,500 every single month to my family. Meanwhile, they told everyone who would listen that I would never achieve even a fraction of the success of my brother, the prestigious surgeon. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just a bookkeeper counting pennies in a backroom office. The truth of who I really was, and the power I held over my brother's entire career, came to light at the worst possible moment for them. It happened at his promotion gala in front of 200 guests, at the exact moment they publicly humiliated me for the last time. I didn't just cut off the financial support. I did something that would forever change the power dynamics of our family. If you are watching this, subscribe to the channel and tell me where you are listening from. This is a story about the boundaries we must set for the people who should love us, but never truly do. The Gala of Deception. The grand ballroom of the Grand Hotel in the city center had rarely looked so impressive. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over round tables draped in impeccable white linens. At the center of each table were fresh orchid arrangements that probably cost more than most people spend on groceries in a week. 200 guests filled the room, doctors in bespoke suits, hospital board members with jewelry-clad wives, and medical students who looked both reverent and intimidated. At the center of attention was my brother, Dr. Julian Vance ***. Every inch of him exuded the successful surgeon, dressed in a custom Tom Ford suit. At 38, he had just been named the youngest chief of surgery in the history of St. Jude's Hospital. Behind the podium loomed a banner with golden letters, Dr. Julian Vance, Excellence in Leadership. I was sitting at table 19, near the back, right by the service entrance. This seating arrangement was no coincidence. While Julian's colleagues and clinic management sat at the front, I had been placed with distant relatives and casual plus ones, most of whom didn't even know my name. My simple black dress felt almost like an apology compared to the designer gowns gliding past me. "Alina, dear, can you move your chair a bit further?" asked Aunt Martha ***, squeezing past to get behind me. "I want to get a better photo of Julian when he speaks." I moved without comment and watched my parents beaming as they moved through the crowd. Mom, in her new designer suit that Julian had supposedly paid for, basked in every congratulation. Dad, in an elegant navy blazer, placed a protective hand on her back. Both glowed with pride. They hadn't looked at me since the formal hug at the entrance. "Your brother is truly impressive," sighed the woman next to me, likely someone's date. "Your parents must be glowing. Do you also work in medicine?" "No," I replied calmly. "I work with numbers." She gave me that look I had seen 1,000 times, a mixture of pity and disdain, as if I had just admitted to being a disappointment. "Ah, I see. Well, at least it's a stable job." I took a sip of water and noticed some familiar faces in the room, but not from family parties. They were from a completely different environment. My phone vibrated with a message from my assistant regarding tomorrow's board meeting, but I put it away. There would be time for that revelation later. Julian walked to the microphone. The room went silent, all eyes on the golden boy, never imagining what was about to happen. No one knew that the quiet woman at the back of the room was the one who held the keys to everything being celebrated today. The invisible daughter. As Julian began his speech, I thought back to a moment 10 years ago. I can still see the disappointed look on my father's face when I told them I wanted to study economics and finance instead of medicine. "Accounting," Mom spat the word as if it tasted foul. "But Alina, with your grades, you could get into any medical school." "I don't want to be a doctor, Mom. I like working with numbers." "Liking something doesn't pay the bills," Dad interrupted abruptly. "Look at Julian. He's building a real career, something important, something that saves lives. Alina, what does accounting offer you? A cubicle where you calculate other people's lives." In that moment, I became invisible. From then on, my achievements were erased. Graduating with honors, a role at a top-tier multinational, my first promotion, all met with a polite "good for you." But did I hear? Julian just published another research paper. 5 years ago, when Mom mentioned they were struggling to pay the mortgage after Dad retired, I started sending money silently. $1,500 every month into their joint account, without a word, without expecting thanks. Julian is so generous. Mom would melt at every family dinner while I ate in silence. He takes such good care of us. I never contradicted her. Not even when cousins praised Julian as the son every family would want. Not even when Dad, last Christmas, toasted Julian, saying, "Thank God we have at least one child who knows what responsibility means." In 5 years, I had sent $90,000. I had paid off the mortgage, paid for Dad's medical expenses, made Mom's kitchen renovation possible. And yet, in their version of the story, Julian was the hero, the provider, the good son. "It must be hard being Julian's sister," my cousin Sophie * commented at Easter lunch. "He's so successful, but everyone has their role, right? Julian saves lives and well, you do taxes." She laughed, everyone laughed, and I laughed with them, even though something inside me had broken permanently. The tipping point. Julian's voice brought me back to the present. "Family means everything to me," he said into the mic. I almost laughed out loud. "And without my wonderful parents, I wouldn't have achieved anything," he continued. Behind him, a slideshow began, photo after photo of his successes. Julian in a white coat, Julian at awards, Julian with grateful patience. Julian, always Julian. I counted 47 photos, none showed me. Then a family photo from last Christmas appeared on the screen, Mom, Dad, and Julian in front of the fireplace. I remembered it exactly. I had taken the photo because someone had to hold the camera, and of course, Julian had to be in it. "Your brother is truly extraordinary," whispered the man in front of his wife. "The parents are bursting with pride. You can see he takes care of the family, if only they knew." The $1,500 I transferred monthly always had the same note. "With love, Eleanor." But every time I called, Mom spoke of Julian's generosity. "Julian ensured we could pay for the new roof," she recently told her book club. I knew because Aunt Martha told me, adding, "You're very lucky to have a brother like that." The presentation continued. Julian's medical school graduation. My university graduation didn't even earn a Facebook post. Julian's first surgery. Julian's publication. The new car Julian had presumably bought, considering I was the one who transferred the down payment for Dad's birthday gift that month. "What a generous son," I heard someone mutter behind me. My phone vibrated again. A message from my assistant. "The board needs confirmation for tomorrow's announcement. The decision on the funding for St. Jude's Hospital." "Tell them to wait," I replied curtly. "They will have the answer tonight." Now Mom was at the microphone, tissue in hand. "We always knew Julian was special. Since he was a child, he had this ambition, this goal. He made so many sacrifices. He is the son every parent dreams of." Her gaze wandered through the room. It passed straight through me as if I were part of the furniture. "Of course, we love both our children. Eleanor is also here somewhere in the back. She does something with accounting." Polite, pitying laughter followed. The woman next to me patted my hand. "Don't mind it, dear. We can't all shine." Mom continued. "But Julian, oh, Julian, he has given us everything. Security, pride, the knowledge that we raised someone who truly makes a difference." In that moment, my banking app lit up. Scheduled transfer tomorrow, $1,500. I canceled it with a tap of my finger. As Mom handed back the mic, I did the math in my head. 5 years, 60 transfers, $1,500 a month, total $90,000. My money flowing into my parents' lives while I lived in a small apartment, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and canceled vacations just to never miss a payment. That money could have been the down payment for my house, my MBA abroad, my exit from the role of the eternal disappointment. But it wasn't just about the money. Every cent had turned into a new laurel for Julian's crown. Julian paid for Mom's surgery. No, it was me. Julian paid off the mortgage, my annual bonus. Julian gave them the anniversary cruise, my full tax refund. And worse, my mental health was at its limit, 2 therapy sessions a week just to carry the weight of this secret. My therapist, Dr. Miller asked me last time, "What would happen if you simply told them the truth?" "They wouldn't believe me," I replied, and I meant it. Hash the reveal. Julian was finishing his speech with that practiced sincerity many surgeons master. I am grateful to be able to take care of my family, to be their rock. That is what motivates me. My phone vibrated again. An email from the board of the **Hartfield Group, **, marked urgent. Aliner, we need your final signature for the grant to St. Jude's Hospital. $500,000 is a considerable sum even for us. Please confirm if this aligns with our philanthropic strategy. I stared at the message. St. Jude's Hospital, the hospital where Julian had just become chief, and whose entire pediatric scholarship program depended on external capital. The program Julian had arrogantly claimed weeks ago to have already secured private sponsors for. He had no idea I was in the room during that phone call. The funding is in the bag, he had said. I have great contacts. The irony couldn't be greater. The disappointing daughter who just did accounting would now decide Julian's bright future. Another message, this time from an unknown number. Ms. Vance, this is Marcus Reed from the St. Jude's board. We haven't been officially introduced, but I believe you work at Hartfield. I would like to thank you personally for your support. The puzzle pieces clicked into place, but only I was seeing the picture. I have to pause here because I know some of you know this feeling, the heartbreaking experience of giving your all while the people who should love you ignore you. If you've ever been the invisible one, the one whose achievements are credited to others, write in the comments. I read every message. Hash the confrontation. Julian was in the thank you portion of the speech. I want to thank the board for believing in my vision, he said, gesturing to the row of high-ranking hospital reps. Together, we will revolutionize pediatric surgery at St. Jude. The guaranteed funding, Julian continued with self-assurance, will allow us to give full scholarships to talented medical students from humble backgrounds. I have personally ensured this funding is secure for the next 5 years. My phone was vibrating incessantly. 3 emails from the Hartfield board, 2 missed calls from my assistant. The decision had to be made today. In 6 hours, the board would meet in Tokyo, and they needed my final approval. A man in an expensive suit suddenly appeared at my table. Excuse me, are you Aliner Vance? Before I could answer, Julian's voice echoed again. Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about being the person the family can count on. Yes, I said quietly to the man. Aliner Vance of Hartfield. He looked surprised at me and my table in the back. The CFO, Chief Financial Officer. The woman next to me almost choked on her wine. CFO, but you said you were an accountant. I am, I replied calmly. I just happen to manage a budget of $12 billion. The man extended his hand. Marcus Reed, from the St. Jude's board. I've been trying to contact you for a week regarding the grant request. I must admit, I didn't expect to find you here, let alone at this event. It's my brother's party, I replied simply. His eyes widened. Dr. Vance is your brother, but he never mentioned. When he said he had secured private sponsors, we assumed. You assumed what? I asked, though I knew. Well, that he had contacts in the medical field, not his sister. Mom went to the mic again, tears in her eyes. Before we toast, I just want to say how grateful we are to Julian. He has been our foundation, our provider, our greatest pride. She looked toward the back tables. Our eyes met briefly. I only wish all our children could be as successful and generous as Julian. The words hung in the air like a sentence. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. The disappointment. The one who just did accounting. Something changed inside me. It wasn't a break. That had happened months ago. It was clarity. I stood up. A simple movement, but in the growing silence of the room, it sounded like a signal. Aliner, Mom's voice trembled into the mic. Dear, we are about to toast now. I walked toward the front. Every step on the marble floor felt like I was shedding a weight. Marcus Reed followed me, uncertain but attentive. I'd like to say something, I declared firmly. Julian's jaw tightened. Aliner, now is not the appropriate time. When would be appropriate, Julian? I asked, reaching the front. When you receive praise for sacrifices I made. When Mom thanks you for money you never transferred. Mom laughed nervously. Alina, what are you talking about? This is Julian's night. You're right, I said, taking the mic from her hand. It's always Julian's night, Julian's success, Julian's generosity. I turned to the crowd. But I have a question, Mom. You just called Julian your provider. Tell me, how much money has he actually sent you in the last 5 years? Dad stood up, his face red. Alina, this is totally inappropriate. Is it? I'm asking out of genuine interest, because I have transferred $1,500 every single month for 5 years. That's $90,000. Yet Julian gets the credit. Mom's face turned white. What money? We've never received money from you. The room filled with whispers. Julian stepped forward to take the mic. Alina is confused. I have all the bank statements, I said calmly, holding up my phone. Every transfer every month, do you want me to show them? This is ridiculous, Julian spat, but the confidence in his voice was gone. Mom, Dad, tell her. Tell her what? Mom stammered. Alina, we haven't received a cent from you. Julian handles our finances. The silence that followed was sharp. Julian handles your finances, I repeated slowly. The joint account I've been sending money to every month. Julian's face went from red to pale. This is a family matter. We should resolve it in private. Just like we resolved it in private at Christmas when Dad toasted you for paying off the mortgage. I opened my banking app, the screen glowing bright. Or at Easter when Mom thanked you for the new kitchen. I turned the phone toward the audience. Every month, $1,500. Description, for Mom and Dad with love, Alina. Marcus Reed stepped forward. Perhaps we should. No, I interrupted. Let's clear this up now. Mom, look at your account right now. Mom nervously pulled out her phone, her hands shaking. She logged in. The whole room watched. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to horrified realization. The balance, she whispered. There's only $100. That's impossible, Dad growled, snatching the phone. Julian said we had savings. Look at the transaction history, I suggested. My voice was surprisingly calm despite the adrenaline. Julian ran to the mic. Enough, you're destroying everything with your jealousy. Jealousy? I dodged him effortlessly. Let's talk about jealousy, Julian. Let's talk about the investment account you opened in Dad's name. The account where you diverted all the money. The account where you lost almost everything because your crypto bets failed. A collective gasp swept the room. It's a lie, Julian shouted, but his voice cracked. Mom was scrolling frantically. Julian, these transfers go to another account. Your name is on it. Her voice broke. You took Alina's money. I invested it, Julian shouted. For the family, for their future. You lost it, I corrected. $40,000 in crypto, $30,000 in a failed startup, $20,000 in day trading. I looked directly at him. You didn't have the slightest idea what you were doing. He stared at me, speechless. How do you know that? Because unlike you, I actually understand numbers. I turned to the crowd. And speaking of numbers, $500,000. That is the value of the Hartfield grant for the St. Jude's program everyone is talking about today. Board members were now standing up with faces of horror and rising anger. Alina, Julian's voice was a whisper, please. But I was tired of protecting him. Ms. Vance, Marcus Reed's voice cut through. When you say Hartfield Group, you mean the Hartfield Group that funds 30% of our research programs. Exactly, I confirmed. The collapse of the Golden Boy. Dr. Sterling, the CEO of the hospital, stood up. Dr. Vance, is this true? You led us to believe you were arranging the funds yourself. I was going to. Alina is distorting things. Alina is distorting what? I asked. I turned to the crowd. The disappointment of the family who chose finance over medicine. The sister who will never be as good as her brother. Or perhaps, Alina is the CFO of a multinational that has silently funded this family for years while they said she was worth nothing. The woman sitting next to me earlier gasped loudly. You're Alina Vance. The one Forbes named as the most powerful CFO under 40. Mom dropped the phone, it clattered on the marble floor. This is impossible, she stammered. You only work in accounting. Yes, I said. I work in accounting. I manage billions in assets, lead 800 employees, and I approve or reject any donation over $100,000. Julian's face was like chalk. Alina, we're family. You wouldn't. I wouldn't what? Do to you what you did to me. I pulled out my Hartfield business card. Mom choked as she read the title, Alina Vance, Chief Financial Officer. The funny thing about being invisible, I said quietly to Julian, is that no one expects you to stand up one day. Marcus Reed cleared his throat. Ms. Vance, regarding the grant. We will speak about that shortly, I replied. First, I think Julian has something to say to our parents, don't you? Julian tried one last desperate move. He grabbed the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disturbance. My sister has been struggling with mental health issues for some time. The ultimate gaslighting. I didn't flinch. Dr. Sterling, I said calmly, could you please Google Alina Vance Hartfield CFO? I already have, she replied curtly, holding up her tablet. Your photo is right here. Forbes article from last month. Julian's face contorted as if he'd been punched. He turned to the guests, playing the wounded brother. Even if my sister has had some success, does that give her the right to attack me like this? To destroy everything I've worked for? Everything asterisk you worked for, I asked. Or everything I paid for? Mom stepped between us. Alina, please go. You've done enough. Julian is right. You need help. This obsession with recognition. It's not healthy. It's not healthy, I repeated, incredulous. It's not healthy to idolize one child and erase the other. It's not healthy to accept money and pretend I'm invisible. Mom sobbed. You exist. We recognize that you exist. That's not enough. No, Mom, I said. Existing is not enough. I deserve to be seen and valued for who I actually am, not for the failure you invented. Julian, sensing the tide turning, seized the moment. Then prove it. If you're this powerful CFO, if you control our funding, then make the decision now. Right here in front of everyone. Show them who you are or admit you're just a bitter sister. I smiled and took out my phone. I dialed and put it on speaker. The ringing echoed off the marble walls. Alina, my assistant's voice filled the room. The board is assembled. Tokyo is waiting for your decision on the St. Jude's grant. Thank you, Jennifer. Can you put me through to Mr. Yamamoto? Of course. Julian's face lost all color. A deep, calm voice came on the line. Alina, we are waiting. The $500,000 grant, should we release it? Mr. Yamamoto, I am at the St. Jude's event now. You are on speaker. Very well. Good evening, everyone. This is Toshi Yamamoto, CEO of the Hartfield Group. Guests were filming everywhere. Dr. Sterling put her hand to her mouth. Mr. Yamamoto, I said clearly, could you confirm my role to those present? Certainly. Alina Vance has been our Chief Financial Officer for 3 years. She leads all financial operations and has final decision-making power over all donations over $100,000. And I will say openly, we are extremely fortunate to have an executive of her caliber. Mom collapsed into a chair. Dad stared into space. Thank you, Mr. Yamamoto. Now, regarding the St. Jude's grant. Wait, Julian jumped forward. Alina, please, let's discuss this in private, like a family. Like a family, just like you took my money like a family. Mr. Yamamoto, I said calmly. I reject the grant request for St. Jude's Hospital. The room exploded. Board members shouted. Julian pleaded, but I continued. However, I approve a $500,000 donation to the *Vance Foundation for Excellence in Finance ***, which will provide full scholarships for students from low-income families in accounting and finance. Excellent choice, said Yamamoto. Shall we name the first scholarship in your honor? No, I replied, looking at Mom and Dad. Call it the *Invisible Achievement *Scholarship for young people whose contributions are ignored, even though their impact is undeniable. Very well. And Alina, the board wanted to remind you of next week's announcement. What announcement? Dr. Sterling asked. Alina will be promoted to president of global operations, the youngest person ever to hold that role. Congratulations again, Alina. The line went dead. Absolute silence. The aftermath. You just took $500,000 from the hospital, Julian whispered. No, Julian, I said. You did that when you lied, when you built a career on a relationship you disrespected for years. It's madness, Dad shouted, face red with rage. And as always, his anger wasn't at Julian, but at me. Alina Maria Vance, how dare you shame your family like this? You are ruining your brother's career out of pure envy. Ruining his career? I asked. You're a disappointment, Dad yelled. You sit at a desk and play with spreadsheets. Julian saves lives. You won't ever be half the person your brother is. I am tired of obligations that only go one direction, I said. I looked at Julian. You're a talented surgeon, that is real, but that doesn't give you the right to steal from me. I turned to the room. This isn't about revenge, it's about truth and boundaries. I took my bag. As I walked toward the exit, the guests moved aside like the parting sea. Alina, Mom cried out, don't leave like this. I stopped at the door and turned one last time. I have walked out of family parties for 10 years feeling like I was worth nothing. Today, for the first time, I walk out with my head held high. We are your family, Dad implored. Yes, I said, but family isn't a free pass to belittle someone. It isn't an excuse for theft or erasure. Family should mean more respect, not less. When you can be proud of me for who I am and not disappointed because I'm not him, then you can call me. I walked out. My heels clicked confidently on the marble. I was in the parking lot when my phone vibrated. The first message was from Dr. Sterling. Emergency board meeting in 1 hour. Julian's position will be reviewed. The second was from Marcus Reed. The board demands answers. The third made me freeze. It was from Sarah ***, Julian's wife. Alina, I'm leaving him. This wasn't the first time. He mortgaged our house again without telling me. The kids' college fund is gone. I'm so sorry for not speaking up sooner. 1 year later. Julian lost everything. His career was frozen after an investigation revealed he had also diverted hospital supplies. His marriage ended. He is currently in court-ordered rehab for a gambling addiction. As for my parents, I paid for a financial advisor and a lawyer. They had to sell their house to cover Julian's secret debts, but I bought a smaller, comfortable apartment for them, under my name. We attend family therapy once a month. It's not perfect, but they finally know my middle name. They finally know what I do. I am now the president of global operations. I am no longer invisible. If you are the invisible one in your family, listen closely. Your value is real, whether they see it or not. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop allowing their blindness and demand to be seen. Thank you for listening. This was Alina, reminding you that being seen is your right.